Okay, here we go. So first of all, I am not used to recording videos anymore. It's so weird to not have to look at your comments. So this will be different. It's been a while. I did want to come on though and do the top 5, my top 5 tarot decks of the year. And this is the top 5. They didn't necessarily come out in this year, although I think quite a few of them did come out this past year. But not, there's at least one that did not. But they were new to me in 2018. And it was funny looking back, trying to find all of the tarot decks that I got this year. Was like, whew, okay. My collection has grown quite a bit this year. If you've been following me for the whole year, then you will remember in February I did Confessions of a Tarot Addict. And there was quite a few decks in that month. And some of these, I'm trying to think, at least 2 I think of these are from that month alone. And then a couple of them are from other stuff. But I like to do this because it really forces me to look back on my videos from the year and to see, you know, what decks I've purchased and, you know, what I'm actually using. And that's very interesting to do that because I have great intentions. And a lot of the decks I still think I may use sometimes. But they're kind of for very specific purposes, not necessarily for everyday use. So then you kind of go, okay, so is it worth it to get all of them when it's just, you know, once in a while kind of use? So, but that's something I have to think about. So these are in no particular order. And this is, of course, a VR to our wonderful Hermit's Cave Simon. The first 2, I think, are from my February Confessions of a Tarot Addict. So the first one is Terra Fauna. This was an independently produced deck that I got in February. I'm trying to think, I had either backed it on Kickstarter, maybe not. I saw it on Kickstarter, but I didn't back it in time or something. And so I believe you can still get it though, and I think it's on Etsy. We have been using this deck for our tarot study, and it's really good because most of the time when we look at the cards, they're all animals, which is great. And most of the time when we look at the cards, we are able to see something in these cards that make us look at the card differently. That some kind of new insight comes from looking at these specific cards. And so it's been a great deck because I feel like it has really nourished and enriched my tarot readings. And I must admit that I don't use them for readings a whole lot yet, because I still feel like I need to think about them a lot. Like I need to look at them and go, okay, now, why does this say the Chariot to me? And then I think, oh yeah, and then all this stuff that comes up when we're studying really begins to come up in your brain. And it's a great deck though for enriching the way you look at tarot, which I really like. And I have really enjoyed this deck this year a lot. The artwork is gorgeous. The cardstock is really good. It's really that butter feel. And the images have just been beautiful. So that is the first deck. I'm going to try to do this as quick as I can so I don't, because I have a live video to do tonight too. The second deck is also a deck that I got during the February Confessions of a Tarot Addict month. And this deck has also been used a lot in our tarot study, our live tarot study. And that is the Guardian Tarot. And this deck is one that I apparently have turned a lot of people onto this deck already, because we do use it for our tarot study. And this deck is so unique. You either really love this deck or you really don't connect with it at all. Some people see weird, like alien creatures. I see these beautiful, ethereal, tree-ent, spirit-connected, earth-connected beings. And because of that, I adore this deck. And I have used this deck for readings a lot this year. But especially for our study, the study with these cards has been amazing. They really go deep into what the card meanings are. They really have, again, forced us to enrich our studies, to really think about what this image means, what this card means in the tarot. And so I have super, super enjoyed this deck. Loved working with it. Come on. And teaching with it has been amazing. Truly amazing. And again, you either love these images or you really don't. The cards are a little bit glossy. I wish that they were more of a matte finish so that they didn't shine quite so much. But they are glossy but not real sticky. So that is pretty good. Although I have to say, I think that comes with use. I seem to recall when I first got this deck that they were kind of sticky and a little bit harder to shuffle. But the cardstock is great. It's pretty thick, and they have held up beautifully through the 9 months, 10 months that I've had them. So, love it, love it, love it. That's number 2. The third deck, I really had to think about why I am choosing these decks, because it is the Dark Goddess Tarot. It is an independently produced deck. It is not a deck that I use for readings ever. But this deck came to me while I was doing my Shadow series. And it's Ellen Lorenzi Prince. And first of all, I will say the cards are amazing. They feel amazing. They look amazing. They shuffle really well. They are a little bit on the big side now. I have real big hands and they're pretty long. But I personally really like that because of the way that I use this deck. I'm not really doing a whole lot of readings for other people. This deck to me is purely for me and maybe for, you know, my viewers when we're doing shadow work. It has introduced me to goddesses that I had no idea existed. And I got in contact with the illustrator of this deck when I was doing my shadow work series, who so graciously gave me the books to both this deck and the Tarot of the Crones, which is the same illustrator and the same author. And that little addition, the addition of the book in this deck, which if you read or watch my channel, you know, I am not a person that reads the book usually. But this book and the Terra of the Crones book is amazing. The depth that it allows you to go into with these goddesses is unbelievable. And anybody who wants to do spirit or shadow work, or who is going to do shadow work, I highly, highly recommend both of these. This and also the Terror of the Crones to help with shadow work, because it is brutally honest. The book itself has all kinds of exercises just that help you to enrich your shadow work. And I was introduced to so many goddesses that I'd never even heard of for this deck. Oh, look at, oh, I love that. That's one of my favorite cards. And they all are just, these goddesses are amazing. They are, I adore this deck. Here's the backs. They are completely reversible. But I have to say, I definitely recommend getting the book, because I did not spend the money to do that. And I was lucky enough to have enough influence with my channel here that the illustrator reached out to me and actually gave me the books, which are amazing. Just the exercises and the amount of detail that they go through for each of these goddesses. And they have like meditations, and it just amazing to work with this deck. Was a privilege and an honor. So that is my number 3 in no particular order. This deck, I have the box to this deck, but it's like underneath the shelves, I think, way in the back someplace. So I'm just going to tell you without the box that the Next World Tarot, I was kind of surprised that not a lot of people have said this, because this deck to me came out at a time where first of all, cards are huge, just so you know. I have big hands. So these cards are not cards that are easily shuffled. But these cards are gorgeous. They are modern. And they're cards I would like to maybe try to pull these out when we are doing our study. Because these cards, Justice, of course I pulled Justice first. These cards are an amazing insight to the modern way that we could pull the tarot into the new world, into this age. And very striking and very relevant and very diverse. I love this deck. It is extremely diverse. It is modern, but retains the messages from the Rider-Waite-Smith. And just deeper than deep. You can dive into this deck like no other. Look at that. 5 of Wands. I mean, come on. That is amazing. Amazing. I'm going to keep going here until I get to my absolute favorite card, which I hope I didn't pass and I didn't notice, but I don't think so. No. Actually, I'll just kind of start looking for it. Just the amount of diversity and inclusion in this deck alone makes it one that I had to have in my collection. And like I said, I really think I would like to pull it out for our tarot study that we do, because these cards will really make you see some things that you might not have seen before, that you might not have thought of the card that way. So it is a deck that I will be using some more. I used it a ton when I first got the deck. And then I kind of put it away for a while because I didn't want to. I have had decks before in my life that I have carried around for years, and I've kind of gotten dependent on them. And while that's good, and I still have those decks, and I still use those decks for paid readings because I'm so comfortable with those decks, I like to challenge myself. So this card really was the game changer for me. This was the, oh my gosh, I have to have this deck kind of card. To see the Lovers as yourself really hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I must have this card. And I'm so glad, because the deck really goes right along with it. It's just amazing. Amazing deck. So that is number 4, and there's one left. And if you watch my channel, I bet you can probably guess which deck it is. It is a deck that I got fairly late in the year, but that I have been, ooh, I don't want to bend that card, went in different from the other cards. Hold on. I have been describing this deck as my soul deck, which I really believe it probably is. Every single image of this deck hits me right in the feels. And it is the New Era Elements Tarot, which is just an amazing deck. It's one of those decks. I'm an emotional person anyways. So if you know me, you know that I'm an emotional person. But it's one of those decks that is very controversial. I'll tell you, this is one of the images that is controversial because it's so hard-hitting. And to me, I want a deck that will tell me the truth, that will, look at that, that will not allow me to spin it into bullshit that I might not really pay attention to. There are times that you do readings for yourself and you're like, oh, well, it could mean this, though. It might not mean that thing that I've been totally ignoring that I have to jump off a cliff for. It doesn't really mean that I have to do that. And this deck will not allow you to do that. If there is a problem, this deck is going to say, guess what? There's a problem. Take care of it. And I appreciate that. As someone who is pretty good at telling my guides and my guardians to kiss my ass and I don't have to listen to them. Oh, there you go. There's the hottie card. That card literally stopped my live tarot discussion for like half an hour. But as someone who is very good at ignoring messages, even when I know what kind of messages they are trying to tell you, this deck doesn't allow me to ignore shit. It really is one of those decks that calls you out on your bullshit, and you can't ignore. So because of that, this deck had to be in my top 5. This is still, I believe, truly going to be my soul deck. And of course, I'm looking for the one card that everybody always goes, oh my goodness. There's tons of cards like that in this deck, though. Tons of cards. And the artwork is stunning. And the insight and the depth in these cards is just unbelievably amazing. So, here it is. This card is one of those cards that starts discussions wherever it goes. And it is, the Tower shows 9/11. And it also shows the tearing down of the Berlin Wall. So I love the fact that it has the two aspects of the Tower. The, you know, everything in your world feels like it's breaking down. And the, okay, everything is changing, but perhaps you'll get some new insight, some new freedom, some new, a new way to look at things that you were never able to look at them before. So, amazing, amazing, amazing deck. I do truly believe that it is probably going to be my soul deck for a long, long time. And I highly recommend it. And I did pretty good, 20 minutes. So thank you, Simon, for starting this tag. I hope everyone has a wonderful new year. Many blessings to you.